Okay, well, today is April 29th, 2019. We're in the upstairs office of George Delaplane's Great Southern building, and he's made this available for us. And right now, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Fred Broadrup. So, Fred, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your early scout experiences.
Right, sir. My scouting career started as Cub Scouts at 8 years old. I was with a group where my mom and dad were both active with the Cub Scout program. And I transitioned at age 11 into Boy Scouts. And at that time I went in with Troop 799 that was out at Fort Detrick. And it was a large troop. In fact, it got so big with over 100 in the troop that we had to meet in 2 shifts in the evening of our scout night. And when we went to summer camp, it was like a Army maneuver. In fact, it really was similar because we had all these Army vehicles at our disposal, these big trucks and all that. And when we pulled in, it was like, you know, the Army arriving at summer camp. But I stayed in Boy Scouts, and then at 14 transitioned to Explorers, and stayed in that until I started college. So I've really enjoyed the scouting program as a youth.
Did you do a lot of camping in your troop?
We did. There was a very heavy emphasis on camping and outdoor skills and advancement. And I think that's a very positive measure to push as the program for your troop, the outdoor part of scouting.
What are 2 or 3 of the places where you would camp?
Well, our summer camping, I do remember the council camps at that time that come to mind were Wilson and Roosevelt down on the bay in particular. And I also participated in 2 Philmont expeditions, and I think those were in 1960 and 61. And it was a very popular program at that time for scouts in Frederick County, and we probably had 4 or maybe Greyhound buses full of scouts that would do these expeditions out to Philmont Scout Ranch. So there was a lot of emphasis on scouting and its skills, and by the time we got to Philmont, we were in pretty good shape to put those skills to use and get the most out of our experience, high adventure experience out at Philmont Scout Ranch.
You talked about rank advancement. Your troop was good at that. How did you advance?
Well, I was very interested in the Scout program and enthused about it. I got my Eagle at 13 and the Lutheran Religious Award for Youth called Deo Patria at that time, for God and Country. And I got the Hornaday Medal as a youth, and I think I may have been the first to receive the Hornaday Award in the district. And continued on with getting the 3 Eagle Palms. I did that during my time as Explorer, and I stayed with post 799, so at Detrick for my exploring part of my youth career.
How did you like the Merit Badge program?
I thought the Merit Badge program in scouting was great. It taught you skills, and these skills gave you confidence. It gave you a new view of, say, archery, or swimming, or life saving, or camping, or hiking and cooking. They're the foundation. And when you passed one of those badges, you became a better scout. You were more independent, and at the same time, you were working with an adult, your counselor at that time, and had a relationship there, and I found them very interesting.
Was there any one in particular that you liked?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that. And I still remember to this day as my wife and I take a walk around Whittier where we live, and there are a lot of trees out there. The Forestry Merit Badge, taking that as a youth, the counselor was the forester up at Gambrel State Park. And it probably took me a year to get that merit badge because the gentleman would not sign me off until the leaves were off the trees and I could identify the trees by the bark. So it's funny the things that you remember, but yet there's an example, and I don't think perhaps at the time that was a requirement that you had to identify the trees as bark, with bark. But him going, and that being his criteria, we did it, and I can still identify some trees by their bark in the winter.
So you can identify some dogs and trees by their bark.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
What leadership skills did you learn as a Boy Scout that helped later on?
I think there are two things that I would mention there. And that would be the patrol method that was emphasized back then. And that enabled you to work as a small group with fellow scouts. And I found that helpful. I found also the second part of that was developing leadership skills. Over the course of the time in my youth in scouting, I was patrol leader, senior patrol leader, and post president with 799. So the skills were introduced to a person at an early age, and how to get organized and how to manage your time. Because scouting, if you were in an active troop, took a lot of time, and it was time well spent.
Is there any most important or most significant event that you remember from scouting? Lessons learned or something like that?
I think in particular, if we're transitioning to the adult part of the program, in 1967, I was 21 years old, and Goshen Scout Camp had just opened. And I had applied to be on staff at Goshen, and my application stated that I was interested in being an aquatic instructor or assistant aquatics director. And I went down for an interview in Bethesda, and they said, well, we'd like you to be an aquatics director. And I said, well, okay. I had the skills, and I was on swim team in college, varsity swim team. I really developed a very strong affinity for water as a youth. And at that time, in scouting, with the merit badge program, there was swimming, life-saving, rowing, and canoeing. And I'd had all those merit badges, and enjoyed them, and learned a lot. So I said, well, okay, I'm not familiar with the scout program in terms of the lesson plans, whatever. And they said, well, don't worry about that. We're going to send you to National Camp School. And I said, well, where's that? And they said, well, that's Schiff Scout Reservation in mountains in New Jersey. And I said, okay. So my training for Goshen in '67 was to go up to Scout Reservation and do National Camp School in aquatics. And I do love water, but I don't like cold water. And it was up in the hills and mountains. And this is in the spring, before camp starts in June. And they didn't have any indoor facilities. It's in a lake. So all of our training, the swimming, life-saving, the rowing, canoeing, scout lifeguard, was in a lake. And it was very memorable.
Sounds like a miserable experience.
Well, if you like cold water, it'd be great. But that's not not my cup of tea, but I do remember the quality of the program of the aquatic staff on camp school, National Camp School for Aquatics, was just exceptional. The people that ran that program, and it was a week, and you had a lot to cover in a week. They did it, and they tuned your skills if you needed it, and it was a very memorable experience.
Well, while we're on it, you are wearing today your Sea Scouts uniform. So tell us about that, because that's not the typical Scout uniform, but I know Sea Scouts has been a part of the BSA for a while.
Really, that's another funny story. I've always liked the water, and I didn't know about Sea Scouts until deep in my adult scouting career. And as you have said, it's been around almost from the beginning of the Boy Scout program when it came out of London or England. And when I found out about it, I said, my God, this is wonderful. Sign me up. So I got involved with a ship that was in trouble at that time. They had one boat that had been repossessed because it didn't pay their slip fees, and the youth was dwindling in membership. And I went in and took over the group. And it was just like I say, stuff I love with water. And we grew the membership. In fact, Norm Covert, who was one of the prior Silver Beavers, was out at Dietrich, I think, as their communications director. And when I was looking for a sponsor, I went to Norm and said, do you think Dietrich would consider taking us over as a unit? He said, let me check and I'll get back to you. Because up to that point, we were meeting up at Camp Baker in that stone building. And that was rough in the wintertime. Like I say, I don't like cold. And you just get a fire going and the meeting would be over. And Norm called me back about a week later and said, I think I've got something for you. The Navy Medical Logistics Unit at Fort Detrick. It's a small unit, component, but they're stationed here. And I talked to the Chief Petty Officer, and he'd love to have you come out here and they'll sponsor you. So there's my connection as a youth with Fort Detrick, and I went back to Fort Detrick. And
so you'd have your meetings there on
yes, yes.
They had actual heat in the winter.
They actually had heat, and in the summer they had air conditioning. And they provided us with a lovely meeting space. And you know, there's another story there. The Chief Petty Officer, who was head of that unit at Dietrich, was a wonderful guy. And he loved the program. And every high adventure we did, and we did one or two each summer, he would come along with us. So as our, unit, charter, organizational, whatever that title is. But he enjoyed doing that, so he was with Florida, all the trips we made to Florida.
Well, so tell us about one or two of these high adventures during the summer. You went to Florida. I mean, what kind of by boat? I take it.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we flew there.
Oh, you flew. Okay.
We flew there and got off the plane and went down to the high adventure base in Florida. Gosh, the name escapes me. But it had programs that were really good. And this was relatively early on in the birth of that high adventure program in Florida. It was in the Middle Keys. And at that time, the ship had a program if kids wanted to do it, the youth, scouts, to become scuba certified. And one of their programs down there was called Scuba Adventure. And this was for a unit that would go down, or a group, that would go down already certified, and you would dive out of their high adventure base, And the program was basically you would do a morning dive, and these were boat dives. They had a skipper and a dive master, and you had a crew of up to, say, 8 would get on a boat. We'd go out and do a morning dive, and then come in and do a snorkel on the way back in. Eat lunch, go back out, do an afternoon dive, do a snorkel through the mangroves, and come back in. And we did that program for, I think, 2 or 3 years. Their own high adventure scuba program. And one year, in fact, then when we got more into the boating with the Ship 59 Sea Scout program, they had just opened another auxiliary base from Florida over in the Bahamas, in Marsh Harbor, in the Abacos. So we did one expedition over there on a sailboat, and there was a captain and a mate, and then I think they could take up to 10 people, youth and adults, on the sailboat, and we'd sail around the Bahamas in the Abacos, which was really another great trip. So what happened eventually, we outgrew the program at Sea Base. That's what it's called, Sea Base in Florida. And we did our own week scuba program each summer. And over that course of time, we made trips to, let's see if I can find some of the names. Well, we made trips to Bonaire, Cozumel, Mexico, Playa Car, Mexico, the Abacos. In fact, when we went to the Abacos on our own, we bareboat chartered a sailboat, meaning we were our own crew. There was no captain and mate. Through the moorings company, we chartered our own sailboat. So we did a combination of sailing around the islands, and then we would meet the dive operator in a dive boat where we had anchored, and we'd do diving, get back on the boat, the sailboat, and go to a different location, and the dive operator would come out the next day and meet us at a different location that was good for diving. So we combined that trip to the Abacos with sailing and diving. But we've also been diving in the Exumas and Belize and the Bay Islands of Honduras. It was just a great program for scuba that we incorporated into the Sea Scout program, along with sailing, motorboating, rafting, canoeing. We really tried to do all those. In fact, when I was district chairman from 2012 to 14, one of the camporees we did that year was called a nautical camporee. First time it had ever been done in the district. And we went up to Cunningham Falls, and the troops that signed up for the nautical camporee got exposure into the use of canoes, kayaks, power boats, sailboats. Maybe that's it.
So in addition to your high adventures down in the Caribbean and so forth, you also went out on Chesapeake Bay and whitewater rafting,
Yes,
and things like that,
yes.
more locally?
We would do the rafting over in West Virginia, mainly on the Cheat River. And the other part of the Sea Scout program that was really a vibrant program was the second week of high adventure with us using our own boats on the Chesapeake Bay. And we were out for approximately a week.
This is boats you owned or that you made, or?
These were boats that I'd started a donation program of boats where we advertised that we as a ship were looking for donated power boats and sailboats. And we did get responses and we actively pursued it. And we had people that would donate boats to us. And we would use those boats. If we got a better boat, we worked with a marina up in the northern end of the bay. They would sell the boat and we would get money from the sale of the boat to run the program. And the kids at that time in Ship 59, because we were moving boats and selling boats too, the kids didn't have to pay for their t-shirt, their ship t-shirt, their scout uniform, their patches, their hat. And when they went out on the water, there was no charge to them for food or gas or diesel fuel for the boats. So it was a win-win situation for the kids. And I was with the ship program for 22 years.
So when did you first get involved with a ship locally here?
Well, that was that ship that was in trouble.
Okay.
Now, what year that was, might be, maybe I can,
1990s or something?
it actually, we went to, it was about 1996
Okay.
approximately that we started that. And that's when we went to Dietrich from Baker in the coal building there.
Is the Sea Scout program for scouts beginning at age 11 or beginning at age 14 or what?
The answer to that question is basically age 14, or if you're 13 and have completed the 8th grade. I think that's the way it reads.
So it sounds comparable to exploring.
That's correct, and that's when they added the venturing program.
Okay.
And originally the Sea Scouts was a separate division. But then when they brought in the venturing program, they rolled Sea Scouts into the venturing program.
Now, is Sea Scouts today, is it also co-ed? Like
Yes,
venturing?
yes, it's a co-ed organization, and both youth and adults. In fact, if we have female youth, we have to have a female adult go along.
Well, that sounds very exciting. So, in terms of your work as an adult in scouting, you've told us a little bit about this, but what are some other things you've done as an adult, including leadership awards you've earned as an adult?
All right. Well, let me finish up first, even as continuum of Goshen Scout Camp in '67. So in '68, I didn't go back on staff. I got an internship with Dow Chemical after I graduated from Gettysburg College. But I returned the following year in '69 to Goshen and served as a program director. And then the following year went back as a camp director at Camp Ross. My first year there was at Camp Baird as aquatics director, and then a year off, and then 2 more years there as staff in Goshen. And those summers on staff were wonderful experiences for a young person. So I started at 21, was gone when I was 22, went back at age 23 and 24. But if you think about it, I was given the responsibility as a program director and as the camp director. I had a staff of about 35 that was a full accredited Boy Scout of America Scout Camp. So we had the whole gamut. We had scoutcraft, shooting sports, aquatics, probably forgetting something, but it was a whole 9 yards. And we had to hire the staff and hire the cook and provide a program that was quality for the scouts and scouters that attended. And it was a wonderful opportunity. Again, talking about leadership skills. And there's a 24-year-old as a camp director, responsible for a staff of 35, and about 2,000 scouts and scouters a year that would come through Goshen. So it was a great opportunity that I'm very thankful for to this day.
So what are some of the awards you've earned? I know them, but I need you to tell us.
All right. In 1988, I was awarded the District Award of Merit from the district, and then the council awarded me the Silver Beaver in 2009. I consider it a privilege to have served as district chairman from 2012 to 2014, and I'm really excited about the venture that I'm working with now. I retired from scouting and being a registered member, adult member, in end of 2016. But in 2013, we established a nonprofit group in Frederick County called the Frederick County Gathering of Eagle Association, Inc. And the purpose of that group was to bring back Eagle Scouts who live in Frederick County. They didn't have to have won their award, earned their award in Frederick County. But if you're an Eagle Scout in Frederick County, we invite you to attend, to join. And we have an annual dinner each year that in the last couple of years, George Delaplane has been very prominent in that dinner. It's named after him. And we invite the Eagle Scouts in Frederick County to attend the dinner. And the purpose there is fellowship of adult eagles or youth eagles. And the purpose also is to do special events and fund special events for scouting here in Frederick County. And one of the projects that we initiated this year was the oral histories of the scouters in Frederick County that this is a part of. And we've gotten an agreement with the Frederick County Historical Society that they are going to have they are going to collect significant scouting memorabilia from scouters in Frederick County. They'll keep that material safe. It's in a temperature, humidity controlled, locked environment. We're trying to do a display once a year and bring the material out. And these oral histories we're doing will hopefully also be a part of that. So that when ideally we do our first display of the distinguished Eagle Scouts in Frederick County, of which there are only 3, these tapes will be available besides the memorabilia displayed from these 3 individuals. You will also have the opportunity to hear them on tape talking about their scouting career. So I'm excited about, still involved with the Gathering of Eagles, who founded that, and that's been going since 2013.
I don't believe you mentioned your profession. I called you doctor, but what did you do professionally?
Well, when I graduated from Gettysburg College, I went to dental school, and I was there for 4 years in Baltimore. And after graduating there, I went out to San Francisco to the Veterans Hospital and took a year internship. And really the purpose of that, besides the idea that I like of serving the veterans and giving something back to them, was, do I want to come back to Frederick, my hometown, and practice dentistry, or do I want to go somewhere else in the country? And San Francisco is about as far as I could get from Frederick, and I was lucky enough to get the internship. But after a year out there, I was ready to come back to Frederick, and I'm glad I did. It's always been home to me, and I enjoy the community and the people in it.
So did you practice with your brother? I thought you did.
Yes.
As dentistry.
Yes.
He was a supporter of scouting too. I worked with him some,
Yes.
and he just recently passed away.
Yes, yes. Robert was an Eagle Scout. Uh, my other brother, Charlie, the eldest brother, was involved in scouting. In fact, the two of them went out to the Jamboree at Irvine Ranch, California in, I think it may have been around '56. It was a train ride across the country to attend the National Jamboree. But Robert was very enthused about scouting, like I am, and became involved with it when he was an adult and served many years on the Board of Review, the Eagle Board of Review, many years in that position.
Well, I have a couple more, unless there's something you want to say. Is there any particular lesson learned? You've mentioned some, but I'm going to kind of ask you the same question from your experience.
What I have figured out about scouting is that the format that I grew up with is a great format. And it has changed over the years, but when I grew up as a youth in scouting, the motto was scouting is outing, and getting youth outdoors. I think it's even more important now with the devices that the kids have that they seem to be attached to. But getting them outdoors, learning skills outdoors, learning the independence of living outdoors, working with other people, developing leadership skills is really important. And the second thing that I can say about scouting is that it should be fun. And it was fun for me as a youth, and it was fun for me as an adult, mainly through the Sea Scout program. So, whereas a program, in my opinion, a troop program, a pack program, a venture program, should also be centered around fun. And the good part of that is, okay, so you're 21, or in my generation, and you turn and you're an adult. Well, way back when, the opinion was, well, you're an adult now, you stop having fun, because you're an adult. You act like an adult. Well, here's scouting, and as an adult, you can still have fun. And you should make it fun for the scouts that you are as the adult in the program. So that stuck with me.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. I mean, that's the absolute truth. If you want to reach out and help the youth, there's no reason why you can't do both. Make it fun and teach good principles. And frankly, if you don't, it won't work.
I agree with you, 100%.
Well, how would you wish to be remembered as a Frederick County Scout and Scout leader?
I think the answer to that was as a grateful scout and appreciate tremendously the adults that worked with me and helped me up the scouting ladder. And I have a strong sense of giving back, because scouting has done so much for me individually. It just wasn't an activity. It became a way of life in the scouting motto and the code. It was very instrumental in my development as a youth. So I feel very grateful to the people that helped me, the adults and youth along the way. And I hope to be remembered as a scouter who realized that obligation way early and have done my best to try and continue as an adult so I can pay back to scouting all that I have gotten from it.
That's great. Now, I don't have any more questions, but is there anything else that you'd like to say that whether or not I asked a question that covers it?
No, you've asked some great questions, and I hope Scouting will continue to be a strong youth program in Frederick County. It has been for decades, and we've had some wonderful people, adults, that have helped grow it and keep the quality in the program. And I hope that that legacy will be remembered, of the strong history of Boy Scouting in Frederick County, and that there will be adults that will work hard to keep that program vibrant and strong and worthwhile for youth in the future.
Well, thank you for your interviewing with us today and sharing all this. This is really helpful in this particular project, which is going to bring together so many of these fine leaders. Is going to be a memorable and a significant contribution to the history, both of Boy Scouting and of our county, Frederick County.
I
So
agree.
thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Dr. Broadrup.
opportunity. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, good. Now we got, yours was about 35 minutes or so, which is good.